Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I am the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, and no, your eyes are not deceiving you, it is Tom Knighton, the Attitude from Bearing Arms, joining us. Tom, thanks for coming along for the ride, man.
Always love it.
All right, let's, as we get going, I want to remind everybody again, if you're watching us on the Polite Society Facebook, the Polite Society Podcast Facebook or YouTube channels, you can comment on either of those live videos. We'll get those comments. We'll put them on the air. We'll discuss them as we're on the air. And if you're watching us anywhere else and you want to get a comment in, you probably need to go to those feeds because I don't get comments in off my broadcast software from anywhere else. So you can comment on those all you like. I'll see them after the broadcast is done, but I won't see them during the broadcast. Tom, first thing I want to bring up, just less than 30 minutes ago, got a press release out from SAF, and I want to read most of this. A federal judge in Texas has issued a preliminary injunction in a Second Amendment Foundation challenge to the Biden administration's new arm brace rule, granting in part our motion. The case is known as SAF et al. Versus ATF et al. SAF is joined in the case by Rainier Arms, LLC, and two private citizens. They are represented by Chaz Flores at Flores Law in Houston, Texas. Defendants are the BATFE and the director, Steve Dettelbach, and the Department of Justice and Attorney General Merrick Garland. In her ruling, U.S. District Judge Jane J. Boyle writes, the court grants in part the motion and issues a preliminary injunction as to the plaintiffs in this case only, pending resolution of the expedited appeal in Mock v. Garland. Upon resolution of the appeal in Mock, the court will address the remaining relief plaintiffs' request in their motion. If necessary, this court will order additional briefing at that time. This is a significant win, said SAF founder and Executive Vice President Alan M. Gottlieb. When Joe Biden took office, he immediately began weaponizing the ATF, and this new pistol brace rule is a result of that strategy. It amounts to a dramatic shift in policy and leads us to conclude the administration is moving to change the definition of pistols fitted with these braces to be rifles and thus subject to the National Firearms Act. In the process, they're turning millions of law-abiding citizens into criminals. We cannot allow that without a fight. And then one more comment, this one from Adam Kraut, who's our executive director. We are pleased the court has preliminary enjoined ATF's brace ban before the effective date. SAF will continue to aggressively litigate this issue to prevent the erosion of constitutional rights and prevent administrative agencies from overstepping their authority. Tom, this just came in this afternoon. This is a different case than the one that was discussed yesterday. And it looks like Judge Boyle went farther than the case yesterday in the Fifth Circuit. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Well, first of all, the first thing I thought about was the fact that two different courts have issued an injunction is very important, very telling. Because if the premise behind these court cases was faulty, like a lot of people want you to believe, how did two different judges come to such similar conclusions?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. It's two different courts. And there's no way yesterday's ruling, or was it Tuesday's ruling, I think?
Yes.
That ruling in the Fifth Circuit could have really had time to have impacted the judge's decision in this. Really, this was being worked on for weeks. This isn't a last minute cram for your midterm kind of a situation. So that's important to remember because, again, it's two different courts, such similar findings. As was mentioned in the press release, the fact that this was done before the effective date is important because these are devices that were bought in good faith with the ATF's, ruling previously that, hey, these are fine. These are not stocks. They do not turn your weapon into your pistols into a short barrel rifle. And people bought them with that understanding. And now they're changing it, and you have to either register it as a short barrel rifle, which, we're making it easier for you. That's beside the point. It means I have to register a firearm with the federal government. Not really cool with that. A lot of people aren't. Or you have to destroy the stock, or you have to turn it in. Or the brace, excuse me.
Yeah.
Or you could just do a deal boxes and just take it off and leave it sitting around. I mean, I'm sure no bad things would befall you if this went, if you got caught with it like that, I'm sure,
Yeah.
The ATF's always so understanding with gun owners. It's the fact that this happened when it did is very important. But the fact of the matter is it's absolutely idiotic in light of the Bruin decision. There is a text and history standard that the courts are supposed to apply on all Second Amendment cases. I challenge anyone to show me where a firearm accessory was banned around the founding of our nation. You're not going to find it because they didn't care. It was not something they wished to ban. It's just because of that. I don't really see how they can get away with half the stuff they're trying. And this ruling is just a reinforcement of the fact that the Bruin decision happened. The ATF doesn't have to like it, but the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, and they've told them to go pound sand.
Yeah. Let me. I'm trying to get it so that we can get social media comments in here, and for some reason our social media comments just aren't. Let me just go ahead and I'm going to read them. They won't be on the screen, I'm sorry, but Sandhills Media wants to know, does the new injunction cover everyone or only the named plaintiffs? The answer to that, Sandhills Media, is yes, if you live in the Fifth Circuit. If you live in Texas, Mississippi, or Louisiana. That's the Fifth Circuit. We need this to get to the U.S. Supreme Court for it to cover everybody in the United States. So...
And it's possible because of the looming timeline that this can at least get to the Supreme Court for an injunction.
Yeah.
Before the May 31st deadline. It's cutting it close, but, that the impact of this rule is significant and substantial, and it's one of those cases of the status quo does not represent a grave threat to the American people. I know the ATF and the gun grabbers want to make it out like it is, but the fact of the matter is we do not have a slew of homicides being carried out with AR-15 pistols equipped with pistol braces. It's not happening.
No,
we had one
not.
instance. We had one, and that was the King Super shooting in Boulder, Colorado, or Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Yeah, Colorado Springs. That guy there had a AR-15 equipped with a AR-15 pistol equipped with a pistol brace. In that instance, of course, he was already AR-15.
Didn't he have other weapons too?
I remember he probably did. I know he at least had handguns. But the AR-15 was under a ban in Colorado Springs up until like the day before, and this guy had it for a while. So, clearly bans work so well.
Well, there is that. There is that. Yeah, this is another one that heartens me. It's another victory for SAF, and Firearms Policy Coalition got one a few days. You were right, Tom. That was on Tuesday. We talked about it on yesterday's show, but
Right.
the actual victory was on Tuesday. Now SAF gets one today on the same topic. I'm very confident that that at least in the Fifth Circuit, I know the ban will not go into effect. We'll have to see what happens for the rest of America. By the way, we are coming up on June 30th is the deadline. You have to have your AR pistol in compliance by then. So,
or have had a tragic boating accident.
I don't own a boat, but I could see lots of boating accidents coming. It reminds me of.
Why do you think I don't own a boat?
There was New Jersey had a ban on bump stocks before it went national in the Trump administration. New Jersey had a ban on bump stocks, and there was a drop dead date, so to speak, for turning them in. And I remember exactly how many got turned in to the state of New Jersey. The exact number on that date, 0. I suspect that's going to be about the same thing that happens with pistol braces the end of June.
Well, the thing is, it's unserialized. It's an unserial, it's an unrestricted, device that, nobody tracked who bought them, who kept them, who had them. Or if I have one.
Yeah?
You bought an AR pistol. That's not probable cause.
I will say this. After June 30th, I don't know that I would be taking one to the range with a brace attached.
Oh, no. If I had one, I would disconnect it for range days. I've never owned an AR pistol, but, it's just one of those. I'm not crazy about the ballistics out of a short-barreled AR. But that's just a personal choice. I don't really like, or what I like less than the ballistics is the federal government telling me what I can and can't have.
Yes.
If
the federal government tells me I can't have something that only makes me want it more.
Yeah, I never wanted to be as much of a people person as there was during lockdown. It's my wife could never get me to go to the grocery store until they told us to stay home.
Yeah.
Then it was like, nope, I want to go all the places, everywhere.
Exactly.
And it's just like this. I didn't want a bump stock until they started talking about banning one. I didn't want a pistol brace until they started talking about banning those. Every time they start to want to ban something, if I don't have it, I want it.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't have an AR pistol that the government knows about, and I want a pistol. I wonder if you can still buy them today. I bet you can.
You might. Because, technically you can still lawfully own one on a short-barreled AR. Even if the rule went into effect, you could still have them.
Yeah, as long as your barrel is 16 inches or longer. Yeah. Or
you register it as a short barrel rifle. So yeah, you should be able to buy them without a problem. I mean, it's like this. They were all worked up about pistol braces. I hate to break it to them. AR-15s are Legos for men. You can take a pistol and turn it into a short barrel rifle without a problem.
Let me disagree with you a little bit, because a trainer whom I put a great amount of respect in, matter of fact, I consider her my mentor in the training world, and a lot in the writing and the broadcast world. Kathy Jackson told me the AR is a woman's rifle. And if you think about it, it is so infinitely adjustable and infinitely customizable, it can work for anybody.
Right.
And very little recoil, very easy to operate, simple manual of arms,
And understand it. When I called it that, I was not disparaging women at all. I'm just saying guys are more likely to want to tinker.
Yeah.
That's all that was in reference to, because I've known too many women who will outshoot my ass with any gun you want to name.
My wife can outshoot me, and I say that without any embarrassment at all.
Man, first time I ever took my wife shooting, she had we were borrowing a buddy of mine's Ruger 22. Put about 3 or 4 mags through. She had every round right here except for one flyer right there.
Oh, not a bad place to have a flyer.
I'm like, if you're going to mess up, that's the way to do it.
There you go. I do want to get to some other stories here. First one off of Ammo Land. I'm going to briefly synopsize this story. I'm going to read the first part, then I'm going to synopsize. During the spring of 2023, Jaden McAdry in Maryland has been openly carrying a long gun in protest over Governor Moore's push for infringements on Second Amendment rights. For weeks, maybe months, people ignored Jaden's protest. WBAL TV interviewed him when the governor responded and called McAdry's brave protests an act of cowardice. Whatever else is true, the story says, whatever else is true, for a young man to stand against the entire state's apparatus in Maryland and assert his First and Second Amendment rights is not the act of a coward. This guy, Maryland is going to be having some really bad. Matter of fact, we've already filed lawsuit against some of Maryland's really bad laws they put through. Mm-hmm. And this guy goes out in protest and carries a long gun, doesn't point it at anybody, just walks around his neighborhood with an AR, never has interactions with the police, and then the TV station interviews him. The governor sees it, and the governor throws a hissy fit, and now every Karen in the state hates his guts.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of a protest, of carrying an AR-15 as an act of protest, only because when you do, the story becomes about the gun and not the message. That said, he ain't got to, he doesn't have to run his protest by me. And he's making a point that is valid, because what he's doing is perfectly legal. And yet the concealed carry laws are about to become absolutely insane in that state. And so, he's making a point, and to call it, you don't have to agree with it, but to call it cowardice, how? I mean, I honestly want to see the quote-unquote logic Governor Moore is applying here, because I promise you, I don't see anything about this that is an act of a coward. Right? The only argument they can make in that regard is, oh, big man needs a gun. Well, you know what? Yeah, I'm almost 50 years old. I'm overweight. I'm moderately out of shape. I got a family. I'm going to use a gun because, well, frankly, I've never been Chuck Norris. No, I mean the internet Chuck Norris, not the literal Chuck Norris. This guy is standing there with an AR-15 doing nothing wrong. He's just standing there. To call it a coward this is one of the major problems we run into with the Democratic Party. You can burn and loot and riot through our city streets all summer long, and all you'll hear from people like the governor is, well, riots are the protests of the unheard, and, it was fiery but mostly peaceful. And then a guy just stands there with an AR-15, not threatening anybody, and he's called a coward. No.
Yeah, and I'm working right now on getting our comments working again. Give me just another second here, and I'm going to get some comments in. First one from Big John 410 talking about the current story we have, and Big John says Anne Arundel County Police are following around him, and you know what? That's kind of to be expected when you're protesting. Especially when you're protesting something controversial.
And let's be perfectly honest. at least some of that police presence is for his protection.
Yes.
We had at least one CNN host, or MSNBC host. I'm maybe getting it wrong.
Six one, half dozen the other.
Right. Was like, well, if I come up behind him and choke him, is that self-defense? And I pointed out that unless he's pointing that gun at someone, or he's even offering verbal threats, no. The dude's just standing there. The presence of a gun doesn't make it a threat. But some people do, and I think that's how it works. And I would not be surprised to see someone decide that, well, this guy's threatening children and try to take, the law in their own hands. And the police may well be there to try to prevent that from happening.
Let me get a couple more comments in here. I want to get one more in from Big John 410 real quick. He says, bad optics. He does not have a sling, and he's carrying it at low ready. Yeah, that's less than optimal.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't necessarily approve of what he's doing. But as long as he's not breaking the laws, I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm not going to call him down for it.
Yeah. Get a couple more. Going back to the pistol brace. CNT Designs and Arms says, at gun stores near me, braces are still on the shelf. And Sandhills Media, John says, I was in Shields yesterday, but it didn't occur to me to look for a brace. Well, darn it, John. Come on. Your ESP must be broken. You got to get that looked at, man.
Well, I mean, and that really is kind of the stupid thing about this rule, is that it doesn't actually ban the braces. It just bans them being on certain guns that are unregistered, which means nothing's going to change. Sorry, it's just not going to... I mean, the problem is the people it will impact are the people who, like amputees, the disabled folks who need that brace to be able to fire the pistol accurately one-handed because they cannot use a second hand.
Yeah. It will absolutely hurt them.
They're the only ones this is going to impact. I mean, it's literally the only people, except for those handful of people who are, well, I'm going to play with the law. I'm not going to play any games to make, to obey the letter of the law, but not the spirit. I'm going to obey the spirit. You're going to have some people like that too, and they'll be impacted, and tough.
And we're going to have, we're going to need a few, but we're going to have some test cases. We're going to have some people that say, I have an AR pistol, I have a brace, I'm not removing it, I am going to the range, and they're going to end up being a test case. And I hope they're not injured, because this ATF, look, I agree with what Big John 410, or not Big John, what CNT Designs and Arms had up in a comment here a little bit ago. That I'm not going to put the full comment on the screen, but he said the ATF has completely overstepped its authority. And I think, Tom, you and I can agree with CNT on that. This is absolutely an overstep by the ATF.
Well, let's also take a look at what we've seen over the last few weeks from federal law enforcement in general. The Durham report in particular, and the role the FBI played in trying to undermine the entire Trump administration for 4 years.
Yeah.
And, and then you look at the shenanigans we've seen from the ATF over the last few years, showing up at people's houses, knocking on the door, wanting to see if they still had the gun they just bought.
Wanting to see what happened to that force reset trigger.
Yeah, wanting to see the force reset trigger. Taking photographs of the purchase records at a gun dealer, among other things. We've seen so much. Let's also not forget, this is, we've had the FBI bully people into signing away their Second Amendment rights, something they legally have no authority to do.
Right.
Right. This federal law enforcement in general run amok. The idea that the ATF has overstepped its bounds is probably the least surprising part of this, because they've always been happy to do that.
Well, and I want to open it up a little bit, even, and I'm sure you've heard of this, Tom. Another lawsuit that the SAF is involved in is against the Attorney General of Washington State. The Attorney General is basically going after Alan Gottlieb and anybody that works for SAF in Washington State. Thank God I live in South Dakota. But putting gag orders in to the point that Alan can't talk to his attorneys or his accountants about what is going on. And finally, things are getting so bad they had to file a lawsuit against the Washington State Attorney General. So it's not just the ATF. Honestly, Tom, it's government in general getting too big for its britches.
Well, in this case, it's Democrats weaponizing the authority that they have. And what they're not accounting for is the fact that whether they like it or not, Republicans are going to be in power again. And what you do now will come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, some Republican governor somewhere is going to start going after Bloomberg and Brady. And, Moms Demand Action, which I still sounds like the name of a channel on an adult video site.
Yes.
I'm just gonna,
that's a Pornhub site right there.
It is. In fact, I'm surprised there's not actually a Pornhub channel named that. Actually, there might be. I haven't looked.
All right, let's. I want one more comment here, and then we're going to have to start shutting things down, man. C&T Designs and Arms says the ATF will have to have people to be made examples of, and they will do their darndest to. They're gonna. Matter of fact, even if it's a squeaky clean person that has never had a traffic ticket, they're gonna make that person the most evil, nastiest looking person they possibly can when they bring charges up against them.
Well, all they got to do is tell the media what they want reported, and the media will report it uncritically.
Oh yeah.
I wrote a story today about CBS News saying, talking about a Texas state senator. And they put, is pushing for common sense gun safety laws, no quotation marks. It was marked as news, not opinion, and is blatant editorializing. If you think for a moment they won't demonize us the exact same way if they get half a chance, well, I got a bridge to sell you. Exactly.
Goes all the way from New York City to Tokyo, right?
It does. It goes around the world. You can go anywhere.
Okay.
Great. Is that amazing?
All right. Well, we are down at the bottom of the hour, Tom. It's time to start shutting things down. Tell everybody about Bearing Arms, maybe about what's coming up, what you've just posted, anything you're proud of, anything you want to plug, man.
Oh, man. So many things. I've written a lot. I write a lot. It blends together after a while. Let's see. Trying to remember what I've got coming in the morning. But there's just an awful lot. But, we'll probably get into the Second Amendment Foundation ruling that, the press release we talked about earlier. I'll probably be writing some more on that. And, honestly, we try to stay on top of whatever's going on. I usually hit stuff overnight, first thing in the morning, late afternoon stuff. Cam picks up stuff during the day. And, we've got other great writers, too. So, come check us out, because I like money.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to be very honest. When I do a news search every day except Sunday for my shows. Sunday is my one day off. And my first stop every day, I have a browser. When I open Chrome, yes, I use a Google product. When I open Chrome, one of the tabs that opens up is Bearing Arms. That's my first stop for Second Amendment news for the day. And I specifically looked... I specifically look for Tom Knighton articles because I like attitude, and Tom delivers that in spades. So,
yeah, my wife says it's not one of my more endearing traits.
All right. On my end, that is going to do it for today. Everybody, do please come join me tomorrow when another Tom Walls of the Firearms Academy of Seattle, will be joining me. We're going to be talking about, is shooting a handgun a martial art? That is what's coming up for tomorrow. Thanks for watching today, everybody. Podcast listeners, thanks for you listening today. We'll see you next.